welcome, and I really appreciate your being here today, this morning, evening, wherever you are, for the 5 emotions that stop success in coaches, clients, and creatives, overcoming personal obstacles of the mind. Now, it's a long title because this is based on my book. This event today is, an experiential version of my book without all the case studies. And it was published by Routledge Press, which is an academic press. And so they needed to get every keyword in the title. That's what happened. The 5 emotions that stop success in coaches, clients, and creatives, overcoming personal obstacles of the mind. I just call it the 5 emotions that stop success. Now, so I'm going to go over today's takeaways, and Mia and Rachel, you're going to be privy to the takeaways. Everybody else is just going to have to take it as it comes. But this is what I hope for you and what I want to devise for you today. You're going to learn about these 5 emotions and their corresponding antidotes. I'm going to teach you a very specific technique to reground yourself and separate from these negative emotions, not suppress them, but give you more agency over them when they arise, so that you can better observe the beliefs behind them. And with that kind of metacognition, you'll be able to change those beliefs. And the thing about beliefs is they're stories, and they are opinions that we've decided are true, and so they determine our actions. So until you can change an underlying belief, it's pretty hard to take constructive action. So you will have a new tool by which to do this. Thirdly, you will learn, once you're able to do that, how to direct your attention more effectively. And that will lie within the antidotes for each of these negative emotions. So you can quickly free yourself and, again, get back to what you want to do. This is because I find in my work that the main reason people come to coaching is because what they want does not align with how they feel. And how they feel always wins. Then I'm going to ask you to hang out till the end, because everybody has their individual one of the 5, your 5 favorite, the big 5 favorite. And I want to invite you to an opportunity that will allow you to go a little deeper in exploring that element of the vicious cycle that are the 5 emotions for yourself. Okay, so without further ado, I will introduce the big 5. First, it's shame. We have shame. As I said, it's a vicious cycle, and shame is the root. Shame is the big kahuna. I believe shame is original sin. Not whatever Eve did. It's shame, because shame drives all the other 4. Then we have grandiosity, which is really the flip side of shame. It is a protective device that is so fragile. And it's like a balloon that gets popped, and there you are, you're back to shame. Then we have envy, and I have determined there to be more than one kind. We do have comparative envy. We all know about that. That's my life you're living type envy. But then there's erotic envy. And we're going to go into that a little more. And while it can be sexual in nature at times, it's really broader than that. Okay. Then boredom, really pernicious. I work with a lot of neurodivergent people, and boredom is anathema. Right? Boredom really derails, because as a creative, when you become bored with your own work, it's pretty hard to finish it. We'll talk about why, and we'll talk about how to overcome that. And finally, fear. Fear of what? Yes, fear of being hit by a car, that's good fear. But the fear I'm talking about is the fear that brings you all the way back to shame, basically, because it is a fear of being shamed. It's a fear of being seen because of the potential for shame. And here we are back at the beginning. I'm going to introduce you to the first emotion. Okay, and its antidote. Okay. Let me share the screen again. So before I show you the antidote, the first, and shame, let me talk a little more about that. Actually, I did talk about it somewhat, but it's ironic to me that in an industry that requires so much shamelessness, most people drawn to it are crippled by shame. So many actors I know, including myself, went into that field because they felt unseen, and it was about look at me, and they found they had a talent in that area. But then as soon as push came to shove, it was like, don't look at me, don't look at me. And a lot of my clients do everything in their power to remain invisible. That's the curse of shame, right? Shame initially was shame is a device of societal control, really, and it's not all bad. Case in point, when my son was 2 years old, he was probably 3, 4 years old. We were in a playground, beautiful day like today, and he's going up to go down the slide, and there's another little kid right behind him. And all of a sudden, he has this sadistic impulse to raise his foot to kick the other kid in the face. Obviously not the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama. So before he has a chance, my motherly reflex goes, hey, stop that. Sorry to yell in your ear, but that's basically what it came down to. And he had enough shame innately in his little heart to draw his foot back and continue down the slide. That's positive shame. Now, had he been a little budding psychopath, we probably would have ended up in the emergency room. So sometimes shame is not a bad thing. Shame becomes toxic when it is publicized. And that is when it is a means of societal control, i.e., case in point, the perp walk, cancel culture. That, to me, is very toxic shame. There are those that would disagree, but I am more of the school of, restorative justice. Restorative justice cannot take place in an atmosphere of shame. And so, because it is so broadly used and abused at this point, a lot of people are just crippled by it. So in my work, I have found through my own psychoanalysis to begin with, and then my work with clients, I found that the antidote to shame is separation. And let me talk a little more about that. I love this image, Ashlan, good choice, because the mask in this person's hand is the negative, is shame, is the occasion for shame. It is not the person holding the mask. So in order to get beyond the grip of shame, you have to get a hold of yourself. You have to unidentify with it so that you can regroup. Now, I'm going to be introducing a mechanism to do that very, very shortly. So actually, here it is. I'm glad I moved this up. Welcome to the mezzanine. This is your primary device to separate from shame. You may be able to tell that I come from a theater background. And I'm going to tell you more about that later, probably after I introduce the next emotion. This device, the mezzanine exercise, came to me many years into psychoanalysis when I had a dream that I was in a large theater that looked like this, like a large Broadway theater, or I'm sure in London, they've got theaters like this. I was in the front row of the mezzanine balcony, the lower mezzanine balcony, very front row. And so my perspective was reversed from this picture. And I was looking down at the stage. And on the stage, a scene from my life was being reenacted of me being dragged around by my hair. As you can imagine, that whole happening was quite traumatic. The thing about it was, as traumatic as that memory is, as I sat in the mezzanine, I didn't have any of the terror. I didn't have any of the anguish, the rage. I was just watching. I was watching it unfold. And when I told my therapist about this dream, he said, that's it. You're the woman in the mezzanine. You're not on stage. You're the woman in the mezzanine. And that became a recurring motif in our work together for the rest of the time that I was in psychoanalysis. So I'm going to invite you right now to do a little exercise. So you're outside, you're walking, you got to be safe. If you got to keep your eyes open, that's okay. Do the best you can. You can use the image if you have to keep your eyes open and just gaze at that image. Allow it to evoke whatever it does for you. If you can, I want you to close your eyes. Sit comfortably, close your eyes. Just close your eyes, sit comfortably or stand comfortably. Drop into your breath. Take some full, deep breaths. And now allow your breathing to normalize. And you don't have to change it in any way. Once you're just breathing, observe it. If it's shallow, it's shallow. If it's still deep, it's still deep. It doesn't matter what your breathing is. If you don't breathe for a second, that's fine, okay? Just go back to observing the animating quality of breath. It's how we survive. Notice where you feel it in your body. Now, I would like you to enter that theater and put yourself in that seat at the center of the first balcony of the mezzanine. And you are the actor, you are the director, you are the producer. So you're up there and you can choose the scene. It can be something recent, an incident that elicited negative feelings. It can be something from the past. I don't recommend something highly traumatic because, this is not a great environment for triage. Just something that bugs you, something that's bugged you for a long time. All right. Now I want you to see this theater in all its beauty with maybe there's a chandelier, a lot of red velvet. I love that red velvet and that cushioned seat. Feel it under you. And now see the curtains begin to part. And there on the stage is a reenactment going on of that scene of your life. You are being portrayed by an actor on that stage. You could be, and it is you, but it is not the you that is observing. You're up in the mezzanine, so you're safe. When we go to the theater, we go to the theater to feel. So you may have feelings. That's okay. Just remember, you're in the mess, you're safe. And watch that event unfold. I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes so that you can observe that. Now I'm trusting that our minds work rather quickly. So I'm going to ask you to move to the next stage of the exercise as soon as you can. Curtain closes. Now, as the playwright, I want you to rewrite that scene and have it be the outcome that you had desired. When you're ready, allow the curtain to open again and watch that reenactment. Great. Well, now we got one more scene. It's a 3-act play, this play. It's a very, very avant-garde little 3-act play we're creating here. The curtain closes. And now, when you're ready, I want you to rewrite the scene as a comedy. The original scene, what actually happened. I want you to reimagine it as funny as hell, as a comedy. And you're not necessarily the butt of the joke. It could be anybody under those circumstances. Just allow yourself to reimagine it that way. And when you're ready, let the curtain part and let the play begin and wackiness ensue. Okay, well done. When you're ready, you can come back to your environment, the environment you're currently in, re-embody that. Feel yourself in your seat, in the seat where you're watching this from or where you're standing. Inhale deeply, get back in your body. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And if you wish, turn your camera back on. And I'm going to pause the share for a moment. I would very much like to hear from anyone interested in sharing what the experience of that exercise brought up for you and what were your takeaways.
If no one else is gonna go, I
Don't be polite. We're too small a group. Jump right in.
It was kind of weird because, like, I don't know. I think I kind of like, I don't know if this was supposed to be the outcome of it, but I felt like the situation I imagined, I actually, at the time, felt like I had a lot less control than I actually did. Like, I could have just, like, made it into a comedy. But I think I also was kind of sat there focusing on trying to win, if that makes sense. Like,
I think that's
whilst I
brilliant.
was doing
And
the
first of all,
exercise.
there's no wrong outcome to this exercise.
Yeah.
Not at all. Okay.
Yeah, but it became vindictive.
Oh, all right. And what do
You
you
know
mean
what I
it
mean.
became vindictive?
Well, I don't know. Um, just like instead of feeling slightly humiliated, well, more than slightly humiliated in the situation, I kind of like ended up feeling like I don't know, imagining an alternative where I came out on top and slightly humiliated the other person involved,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably not the most productive outcome.
Well, what I take away from what you're telling me is you realize you had control, more
Yeah.
control than you did at the time over the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's powerful. Doesn't mean that the resolution you contrived. And listen, James Baldwin used to say that art is revenge. You're a playwright.
Yeah.
You had a little revenge. Good for you. But
It
what?
was kind of funny.
Oh, yeah? I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. I'm going to just, one day I'm going to ask you what it was, but for people, I'm going to say, let's just, yeah, but that's delicious.
Yeah.
And you had
Yeah.
more control than you realized. Now, the takeaway
Yeah.
also for you is you're not going to forget that understanding, and it's changed your brain already.
I could see how that could be the case.
Neuropsychologically, it's already changed your brain a little bit. So this was also a rehearsal for another incident in your life. And you may really recognize your power should there be a repeat of such an incident. And you will be at choice. You don't have to humiliate the other person, but you will be at choice in terms of how to deal with it.
Yeah, I won't feel like so shoved in a corner.
That's I love
Yeah.
it. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. So you separate from the shame,
Yeah.
contemplatively, so that you could train yourself to deal with triggers of shame more effectively in your waking life. All right. So well done. And congratulations on your first excursion into the mezzanine. Now we have a very interesting offshoot of grandiosity. And the antidote to that I'll show you in a minute, but I'm going to take a sip of coffee, not the best liquid for your throat, but I need something. Hold on. I'm going to tell you that story now. Story of when I became a theater artist. My first role, I became a theater artist very, very young. I mean, I remember at the age of 4 being on a rocking horse and fantasizing a crowd applauding me. I don't know. I came in with that, I guess. I don't know. Fast forward about 10 years, 11 years, 15. I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, which is the home of the Yale Drama School. It is where Yale is at large. And there's Yale, and they're the townies. They're the people who are not affiliated with Yale. I was a townie, but I knew what I wanted. And my mother, a French woman, very into culture, always took me to the theater. I remember the first play I saw, I was so excited because I thought I was going to be in it. And then I was so disappointed when we got there and I was supposed to just sit there and watch. So fast forward, she'd taken me to see innumerable plays. Her face pressed up against the glass of Yale Drama School. And once in a while, there were community volunteer opportunities. So I got to volunteer backstage. There was even a Yale dramat, not affiliated with the drama school, where I got to play a role. I got cast in something, because I was in high school at that point. And there was a new initiative called the Yale Summer Cabaret Theater that summer. And that was Yale Drama School. And boy, I was like, wow. It was a repertoire. It was like summer stock. They were going to do a show every weekend, a new show. And I don't know, I had initiative. I had aggression. And we're going to talk a little about that probably at some point, because shame really castrates you with regard to positive aggression. And I had not yet been castrated. And we all have both male and female, you know that. So I managed to find the artistic director and convince him to create a position for me as company apprentice for the Yale Summer Cabaret Theater, complete with salary. Now, it was a company of about 8 actors. And I got to do things like cut up cheesecake. And then I was also watching urinals, and of course there was hand washing in between those activities, but I was doing really menial things. And one of the incentives was if there was any kind of spear carrier role, I got it. And I got a couple nice ones. The one that probably was the most defining and the least gratifying was as the couch, as not the couch, but as the corpse, a little neuro something slipped there. I played the corpse under the couch in Tom Stoppard's The Real Inspector Hound. And it starred Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep was one of these 8 actors. There were a couple other actors who were destined to become renowned, but not household names. And she was the lead. And she was flouncing back and forth across my army booted legs for the whole hour and a half. And for that whole time, I did not breathe. I was the best corpse. I was a corpse. I mean, extraordinary. The stillness. So my father came to a performance. And of course, afterwards, I ran over and I said, so what'd you think? And now, of course, I wanted him to tell me what a great corpse I was. Boy, you were perfectly still. I can't believe the discipline. I can't believe how were you able to do that? Now, I'm a boomer. Well, Jen Jones, really, a little late end of boomer. And our parents didn't know any better. They didn't know about validation, they didn't know about anything. Plus, they were traumatized. My father was on Iwo Jima. He had PTSD that wasn't even diagnosed till he was 75. So he didn't know what he was doing. And he said to me, I always have to go through that to forgive him over again. Anyway, I said, so what do you think? And he said, that big blonde, he was from the Bronx, and he meant Meryl Streep, is gonna make it. That big blonde's gonna make it. Now, I made a decision in that moment. The decision was, if I was going to be an actor, I better be as good or better than Meryl Streep, if I ever want my father to acknowledge me. So, and another thing that ties into grandiosity here more is that was grandiose in and of itself. That was the level of attainment I just took for granted as being capable of, but also I felt somehow in my magical thinking, I was connected to Meryl, that somehow her success was connected to me, because after all, I knew her and I was on a stage with her on a few occasions. So fast forward through my course in, going through acting school and attempting a career in the theater, her star kept rising. Mine did not. And the more her star rose, the more I felt like the corpse under the couch. And what was debilitating me was grandiosity. The idea that I, A, had some weird birthright and was entitled to success, and B, in my despair, grandiosity isolates because no one could see how great I was. No one knew my genius. So, it was unhealthy. I was hypercritical of other actors. Grandiosity wreaked havoc. All right. So here's the antidote to grandiosity. First we'll have, and that's humility. Now, icky word, humility. Have a little humility. It's often flung around in a shaming tone. Humility. What is humility? Well, I like C.S. Lewis's definition of humility, which is, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. And there is a distinction we need to make between grandiosity and humility. No, not humility. Grandiosity and ambition. There's a distinction we need to make between grandiosity and ambition. Grandiosity has nothing to do with ambition. Ambition is all about having a vision, wanting to attain it, and keeping your eyes open so that you can be present for any opportunity that presents itself without thinking it's beneath you. Ambition takes humility. Grandiosity is expecting the world to hand it to you on a plate, or at the very least, little effort. Or perhaps it's a big effort and you're brilliant, and it's like nobody's paying any attention. And this is the curse of so many artists. Well, I wrote a book, and it's a great book, and I can't get it published. God damn it. And so in their grandiosity, they become shut down. The bubble pops, they go into their shame spiral. All right. We got to learn some humility. Humility is also a path to separation. Another opportunity to go into the mezzanine with a situation, a rejection, perhaps, and distance from it, and see yourself enacting humility. What would the next step be? Would it be to go eat a bunch of ice cream or get drunk, whatever? And there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, you know, whenever you pick yourself up, you pick yourself up. That's great. But you could also replay it and see yourself doing something different with that rejection, maybe getting curious about it, wondering what was behind it, learning a little more about the business, right? So at this point, again, I would like to stop the share and get a little reaction from you folks, those that are here, on your thoughts. Your thoughts. Anybody relate to this? And you can also use reactions. I love reactions. Give me some fireworks, whatever, you know. Or, you know, if you want to raise your hand, be called on. There's so few of us, just jump in. And don't be afraid if you jump in first again. Yeah, you don't have to, but I'm saying there's nothing, no shame here. Nobody's judging. I love that. Yeah, no judging. Thank you, Mia. There is no judgment here. And I love to know more about that laughter emoji, if you care to share. What's going on with that laughter emoji?
I don't know. It was just funny. It did pop into my head, you know? Like,
I love,
yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah, I love comedy. Comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is integration. Laughter is integration. Laughter is also separation. Oh,
Yeah.
in the waiting room. I guess she got kicked out. Anyway, welcome back, Catherine, whenever you get here. So welcome back, Catherine, sorry. And, you know, there'll be a replay of this, so not to worry. Anyway, anyone else have anything they care to share, any insight they care to add with regard to humiliation versus grandiosity, or vice versa? Humility, not humiliation. Again, I got some neurodivergent stuff that goes on. Grandiosity versus humility. Anybody else have any thoughts about that?
I might just be like navel gazing, but like,
Hmm.
is there I mean, obviously, like, there's this kind of an immediate reaction to protect yourself with grandiosity, but like, is there no upside to it?
That's a good question.
Sometimes I feel like you have to almost like galvanize yourself with a sense of superiority just to like put on a show. If that makes sense. Just it like for a split second, you know, like, is it all or nothing, or is there like a healthy dose of it when it needs to be there?
That's so interesting. I think what you're speaking to may not be grandiosity, but aggression a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. That's okay. No worry, Rachel. Come on back. You're back. Okay, good. Here's the thing about aggression. Even Gandhi, well, wait a minute, wait a minute. No, I just opened something I didn't mean to open, sorry. Even Gandhi had some aggression. I don't remember the name of the word, but there was a word in Sanskrit that represented not passive resistance, but something else, because he didn't believe in passive resistance. Positive aggression is what allows you to pick up the phone. Aggression. I'm not talking about the kind of aggression that is behind like police violence. I'm talking about aggression that allows you to assert yourself like, hey, I've got the solution to your problem because I'm good and I know it. That's not grandiosity. You need that. That's aggression. And that's something, particularly, I think women, no, you can't go walking in a small town without running into someone and you're right. Rachel, you're right. You're right. I mean, as women, it's pounded out of us. It's shamed out of us. The artistic director of that theater, I heard back, his wife was also, she was the company photographer. And she said to me, because I had called inappropriately late one night because I knew they were doing a certain play and there was a part in it I wanted. Yeah, confidence and grandiosity also are not the same. Exactly, Mia. There was a part I wanted. So she said to me, after Walt hung up the phone, he turned to me and said, she's pushy. And then he took a breath and he said, pushy is good. Pushy is aggression, not obnoxious pushy, obtuse pushy. And sometimes people with neurodivergencies need to learn the difference because they don't necessarily experience things the way neurotypical people do. And so there's social cues that are difficult to pick up on. That's different. But consistent aggression, pushy, making sure that you are not forgotten when you have an opportunity. Now, sometimes you have to accept defeat and learn from it and move on, but that is different. And I'm glad you asked that question. All right, we're going to move on to the next of these emotions. And we're going to talk about envy. That's my life you're living, damn it. I don't know about you, but whenever, I have friends in the theater who are still, they're still working. I like to say that I act by invitation. Once in a while I'll get called to do a reading or I'll get called to do some, print work or something. I don't pursue it because I'm all in my coaching business now. But doesn't mean there isn't a little of the bitter taste that comes up when I see somebody posting a picture of their beautiful dressing room at some Broadway theater. And I force myself to hit like. That's what Schadenfreude is about. And I got to tell you, COVID was a season of Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude is taking a little enjoyment at others' pain, right? Others' unhappy circumstance. During COVID, nobody was getting up on any stages. So it was great. I wasn't going to be triggered. Nobody was going to be posting their dressing room on Facebook. So, there is masked Schadenfreude tendency going on all over Facebook. People are trying to speak to their better angels, so they'll hit like. There's a lot of that. It's kind of a fawn thing, Maybe it's fear, and we're going to talk about fear because fear does manifest in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. That's the fourth one that is I've learned about recently. Okay. But envy, comparative envy, man, it sucks. It doesn't feel good. And I know it is often spoken about as a beacon. And, you know, God bless Julia Cameron. I'm all over the artist's way. I do it myself. I do my morning pages every day. But she talks about envy being a beacon. And that's a little Pollyanna spiritual bypassing, in my opinion. It can be. Sometimes when you still don't know what you're about, you may see someone doing something in life and go, hey, I want to do that. Oh, that's what I want. That's when it's a beacon. The envy I'm talking about is when somebody else is getting and you aren't. And you feel deprived. And it shuts you down because it just creates anger and resentment. And that also is a face of shame. It's not activating. Okay. Now here's the other envy that isn't as toxic, I don't think. However, it's erotic envy. It is a placebo. Sometimes people call erotic envy obsession. When we become obsessed with someone, you have a crush on someone, you find yourself stalking them on Google. We want to learn everything about them. You watch everything they're in or whatever it is they do. And it doesn't have to be a famous person. It could be a friend of a friend. And you're just, for whatever reason, intrigued and you just want to drink them. You know, eroticism isn't necessarily sexual. It's about connection, merging, becoming one with, belonging to, or owning. That's eroticism. It's an immense distraction. But it's palliative because what we are getting fixated upon is something that already exists in ourselves or that we wish we had the courage to be. And so it's vicarious. Erotic envy can manifest professionally through social media managers who actually wish they were the object of the social media. They want the spotlight, but they, for whatever reason, are too ashamed to do what they need to do to get it. So they do it for other people. Sometimes, and I have a case study in my book about this, you have the spouse of a really famous person, and they may have met through their profession. Maybe they're both actors or whatever. But the person who's more famous, the married partner, you'll notice that maybe they recede a little bit into the background. Now, I don't know Phoebe Cates, and you know, that's the wife of Kevin Kline. I don't know her, and maybe that's not going on for her. Maybe she's perfect. Perhaps she's perfectly happy. But in the instance of some people I've worked with, it's just been they hide behind the other person's fame, and then when they get divorced, they got a lot, or the relationship doesn't work out because in some way it was based in that. That's a world of pain right there. Sometimes they have opportunities they don't take advantage of because of their relationship with the person. So, maybe their grandiosity kicks in and says, oh, I shouldn't have to use that contact. I shouldn't have to call that agent and say, well, he's my husband, and I shouldn't have to. Hey, listen, if a door opens, fucking go through it. That's humility, all right? But a lot of people don't, so they settle for erotic envy. Ta-da! As soon as you get in touch with enoughness, envy dissipates. Envy dissipates, and you're back in the room with yourself. Now, in terms of scarcity mindset, sure, I think there's even a little shame connected with that. There's a little, there is that there's not enough to go around, and I missed the brass ring, right? But here's the thing, when you lose your sense of enoughness with that kind of envy, it's important to remember that whoever you're envying, that part's taken. But you, nobody else can play that role. You are taken. So you better go in and reclaim yourself. Nobody else can do what you have the potential to do in this world. Now, I did not wake up in my crib or whenever I was running around and dancing to music at 5 years of age and think, I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to be a career coach, you know. However, I believe life is cumulative, and this is what I'm meant to do, and nobody can do it like me. I do it like me. Now, there are a lot of great coaches. I'm not saying that. However, I'm a great coach. And no, I can't coach everybody. Just like Meryl Streep can't play every role. Not everybody's going to be a fit with me. But if I'm a fit with you, baby, I better be here to show up for you. I've got purpose. I've got a purpose. I need to help people get out of their own way. I need to help them get their voices out into the world and finish things. That's me. And I got the Clem just talking about it. That's my enoughness. No room for scarcity there. You're being stingy if you don't get back to your enoughness. So whatever you need to do to get there, baby. I'm going to move on to the next emotion. Boredom. Everybody's favorite. Boredom. Now, boredom is interesting because, you know, when we lose interest in something, we are susceptible to shiny objects. When we become bored with the task at hand, sometimes it's because it's a challenge. Sometimes it's just repetitive and redundant, but sometimes it's our own work. And that's very confronting. You know, a lot of artists refuse to treat their bipolar depression. I myself am bipolar. And when I first went on medication, I encountered boredom for the first time. And I thought it meant I was boring. People were afraid, artists can be afraid of losing their creative edge if they get happy, if they treat their mental illness or their chemical imbalance. Boredom is not boring. And I also wish parents would stop telling their kids, if you're bored, that means you're boring. That's very damaging. If you're bored, you've lost touch with meaning. If you're bored with your own work, you've lost touch with why you're doing it. You need to get back in touch with that. Now, when you first conceive of an idea, and this is why a lot of ADHD people, folks with ADHD, they don't finish things. That first flush of an idea, at that epiphanic moment, aha, is thrilling. And then you reach cruising altitude as you begin to work on it. And then you have to start rewriting or whatever. You get your prototype created, then you have to fix it, whatever. Then there's administrivia involved, and you start to get bored, and you start to go, well, why am I doing this? I'm bored. Oh, I don't want to show up to this today. Ugh, I'll just binge Netflix. What does it mean to you? That's what you've forgotten. So the antidote to boredom is to become. And, you know, in a way, it's a little kind of a meta acronym. I'm not sure, but what I mean by that is, first, you need to be. You need to do it. Close your eyes. You need to re-embody your existence. Do a little, whatever meditation you want to create. Maybe it's the mezzanine. Maybe it's something else. I'm also trained in positive intelligence PQ methodology, which is something I share as mental fitness training in my coaching. Give you a little taste of it right now. Wherever you are, if you can put two fingers together, index fingers, fingers on one hand, whatever, I want you to, if you could, if it's safe to close your eyes, close your eyes. If not, you don't have to. Just rub 2 fingers together with such attention that you feel the ridges, that you can feel the ridges in your fingertips. And when your mind wanders, breathe and come back to the sensation of the fingers rubbing against each other. Keep bringing your attention back to rubbing your fingers together. Now stop and notice how you feel. Chances are you're feeling calmer. That's you getting back into your skin. Now, once you're there, once you realize you've been hijacked by some shiny object, instead of doing your work, and you've done whatever you need to do to get back in your skin, relax, calm down the nervous system, you come back to the work. You come back to the work. And in order to come back to the work, you come back to why you're doing it. I can tell you, there have been times when I've developed solo shows, for instance, and I've been alone in a rehearsal room, sitting on the floor, wanting to leave, but I wouldn't let myself. And what I ended up doing was talking myself out loud back into developing the work. That allowed me to get back to why I was doing it. So if you're a verbal processor, talk yourself back into it, whatever. You need to come back to the work. And you may need to do it over and over and over again. All right, now I'm going to move on. So be, then come back to the work. Now I'm going to move on to the, come back to its meaning. When I say come back to the work, come back to its meaning. Fear. Fear, you know, I was talking about fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, right? Fight, that's negative aggression. That's wanting to make someone smaller than you. That's wanting to do damage. Maybe it's wanting to survive if you haven't hit first, okay? Maybe fight's not bad, but most of the time in this day and age, unless you're being mugged, you know, and it makes sense to fight. Like I was mugged once and dragged down a flight of stairs and I started screaming. Screaming is a form of fighting. Cody, welcome for the last bit of our conversation. You know, screaming is fighting. You have a screaming match. You don't have to have a physical fight. So if screaming saved me from getting raped, that's positive fight. Now, of course, any way you survive a rape is perfectly fine, is absolutely, you did the right thing. You survived. You did what you had to do. For me, screaming real loud was very effective. As you can imagine, I can be fucking scary. If you think of me screaming. Yeah, now we have flight. Fear, flight. Oh my God, I'm terrified of auditioning for that. I know who else is auditioning, but I'm not going to get it. So you sabotage, you flee. Whatever else. You're challenged by someone in some way. I don't know. You go away. That's flight. Fight, flight, freeze, and then fawn. Fawn is an interesting one. I think fawn is a way to get along with people who you're a little intimidated by. And so, you know, there's a little sycophancy there, perhaps. I think I'm fawning a little bit when I like a post on Facebook, and I'm afraid maybe that they won't remember me anymore because they're so successful. Right, that's fawn. It's tricky. All right, those types of fear are not terribly helpful. I think benign fawning with a like is not so bad. You know, it's not like shit posting someone. That's that is fight. That's negative aggression, right? So the antidote to fear is, it's the only one that's not alliterative, so it can be tricky to remember, but it is the pause. And again, when you're afraid and you pause, you can save your life. If you don't pause and fear is manifesting in rage and you answer that email, you can tear your life down in a second. Trust me, I've done it. Step away from the keyboard, get some space, call a friend, rant. Do not take further action until you have gotten back to who you are, which is not the rage. Remember, separation. The mezzanine of your choice, whatever it is that's going to give you distance between that feeling and identifying it. That's what victim consciousness is. When you identify with how you feel. How you feel is who you are. I am angry because I've been done to. You know, it's interesting. French is a little more intelligent as a language. It says, you know, it says, I have anger. You know, English is, we identify with it too much. Right, so that's it. The pause. Now I'm going to pause. So we have gone over the big five. I'm curious to know what's your favorite. What's your favorite? Please put it in the chat. Put it in the chat, or if you're walking and you have a phone and it's hard to chat, but I'll wait for a second because I'm curious to see what your big five favorite is. You may be watching this. Think about it. What's your big five fave? Envy. Right on. Yeah, it's tough, man. Envy is tough. And you know what? I'm with you, girl. You're my sister. I hear you. Envy is a bitch. I get it. Anybody else? We'll work on that together. Okay. Grandiosity. Yeah. Thank you. Interesting, right? And you know what? I applaud you because that's not an easy one to admit. Oh, no worries. Oh, wrong chat. So you're multitasking. Who else are you talking to? Where else are you, Mia? That's okay. You're here now. Envy, grandiosity, you know that. But boy, don't you see how these play together? Envy, grandiosity, envy, they play together, man. Shame is the puppeteer. Shame is judgment. Shame is the puppeteer getting these other four to dance. Okay, well done. So you can get at that. You can get at the puppeteer working through these other ones. Sometimes we can attack it. You can also attack it directly, but it's nice when you unmask it through these other emotions. Great. So, whoops. I'm going to go back to the final slide. Not the final slide. Oh, yeah. I just want to say that if you're interested in my work and you're interested in my book, it just came out in audio form at the5emotions.com. And if you want to go there, purchase the book, you get a free gift if you do it through my website. Not only do you get a free gift, but you should also get a discount. Let me know if Rutledge messes with you in that front, and I'll make sure you get the discount. Once you download the book in whatever form, come back and you can download my Rati's 6Ds. It's a way to break a goal down from beginning to end so that you can create a path to finishing something. Now, you've got this work behind you. So if there's something you've been wanting to do for a while, I think it's a nice companion, actually. to the inner work in this book. The free gift assists you in doing the outer work, in being enough, in showing up and delivering what you're here to deliver. Okay. So I've had a ball. I want to thank you all for coming. I just want to say thank you again for being here, and to be continued. Thank you so much for sharing your Saturday with me. Bye-bye.